Hello and welcome to this exploring session of a new interlude, never before this time imprinted, entreating of the life and repentance of Mary Magdalene, not only goodly, learned and fruitful, but also well furnished with pleasant mirth and pastime, very delectable for those which shall hear or read the same, made by the learned clerk, Lewis Wager. Yes, it dates in theory from around 1550. That seems to be the date that most people leap for. It could be later, but it seems plausibly somewhere in the middle of the reign of Henry Edward VI. So it's almost certainly not at the end of Henry VIII or during the reign of Mary. It might leapfrog to Elizabeth, but we cannot be absolutely certain. It's one of those plays living in that sort of Bermuda Triangle of plays where the precise placing becomes tricky. It gets printed in 1566-67, so it definitely has a life about then in print, if not on stage. According to the text, 4 may easily play this interlude. Well, 4 men may easily play this interlude, and a boy, or for that matter, in this case, a woman, rather than a boy pretending to be a woman. I think it's fair to say at this stage as well that this text might turn out to be a little problematic in terms of well, we'll get there. But yes, the personification of Mary might be there might be some issues there. But we'll hit those walls as we hit them. So we will have this wonderful selection of people here this evening to read through the first third of this play. So reading the prologue and Cupidity is...
Hello, my name is Andrew Alton-Read. I'm an actor and I'm from Chelmsford in Essex.
Reading the personification of Infidelity today is...
I'm Steve Longstaffe and I'm from Lancaster in the UK.
And reading the personification of Pride today is...
Hello, I'm Eric, and I'm here to be pride and proud and everything in between.
And reading Mary Magdalene today is...
Liza Graham, actor in London.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton. I will be Concupiscence today, which is always good fun. The play should not be confused, I should also point out, with the Digby Mary Magdalene plays, though there may be interesting crossovers and parallels. That's a play from earlier, which at some point we will get round to looking at as well. But this one is very much designed for a much smaller cast on a much smaller scale, and we're going to dive into it now with the prologue. So, prologue away, please.
Nullita modessa felestessa e che malignitas donde vita posi. No state of man, he it never so modest, never so unrebukable and blameless. No person, be he never so good and honest, can escape at any season now harmless. But the wicked teeth of such as be shameless are ready most maliciously him for to bite, like as Valerius in his 4th book doth write. We and other persons have exercised this commonly and good faculty a long season, which of some have been spitefully despised. Wherefore I think they can allege no reason. Where effect ruleth, their good judgment is geason. They never learned the verse of Horace doubtless. Nec tu la labis, studia or Elena vehendes. Thou shalt neither praise thine own industry, nor yet the labour of other men reprehend. The one proceedeth of a proud arrogancy, and the other from envy, which doth discommend. All things that virtuous persons do intend, for evil will never said well, they do say, and worse tongues were never heard before this day. I marvel why they should detract our faculty. We have ridden and gone many sundry ways. Yea, we use this fate at the university, yet neither wise nor learned would it dispraise. But it hath been perceived ever before our days, the fools love nothing worse than fools to be called. A horse will kick if you touch where he is galled. Doth not our faculty learnedly extol virtue? Doth it not teach God to be praised above all thing? What faculty doth vice more earnestly subdued? Doth it not teach true obedience to the king? What godly sentences to mind doth it bring? I say, there was never thing invented more worth for man's solace to be frequented. Hypocrites that would not have their faults revealed, imagine slander our faculty to let. Fain would they have their wickedness still concealed, therefore maliciously against us they beset. Oh, say they, much money they do get. Truly I say, whether you give halfpence or pence, you shall be double before you depart hence. Is wisdom no more worth than a penny, trow you? Scripture calleth the price thereof incomparable. Here may you learn godly sapience now, which to body and soul shall be profitable. To no person truly we covet to be changeable, for we shall think to have sufficient recompense. If ye take in good worth our simple diligence in this matter which we are about to recite, the ignorant may learn what is true belief, whereof the apostles of Christ do largely write, whose instructions here to you will give, here an example of penance, the heart to grieve, may be learned a love which from faith doth spring. Authority of Scripture for the same thing we will bring. Of the gospel we shall rehearse a fruitful story, written in the 7 of Luke with words plain. The story of a woman that was right sorry, for that she had spent her life in sin vile and vain. By Christ's preaching she was converted again, to be truly penitent. By her fruitus she declared, and to show herself a sinner she never spared. Her name was called Mary of Magdalene, so named of the title of her possession. Out of her Christ rejected 7 spirits unclean, as Mark and Luke make open profession. Doctors of high learning, wit, and discretion, of her diverse and many sentences do write, which in this matter we intend now to recite. Of the place aforesaid with the circumstance, only in this matter, God willing, we will treat, where we will show that great was her repentance, that her love towards Christ was also as great. Her sin did not her conscience so grievously ferret, but that faith erected her heart again to believe that God for Christ's sake would all her sins forgive. We desire no man in this point to be offended, for in this virtues with vice we shall here introduce, for in men and women they have depended, and therefore, figuratively to speak, it is the use. I trust that all wise men will accept our excuse. For the preface, for this season here I make an end, in godly mirth to spend the time we do intend.
And there ends the preface, as it's called at the end. I mean, that's a banger, isn't it? I mean, that's really making everyone in the audience sit up and go, "This is going to be good." It's really pointedly going, this is what the Scripture says. We're going Gospels. It's really, this is the true stuff, people. We've got some first-hand accounts from Luke and Mark. Absolutely, you've got to go with that. Yeah, that's a tricky one. Well done, by the way. We've had better prologues. I think it's fair to say. But there are lots of interesting things in it. I mean, obviously, it gets much more to the meat of the matter of Mary of Magdalene, and so named of the title of a possession. It's very, very. This is fact that we're working from. And there, I have to say, it was the opening that really, really grabbed me. I was really grabbed by the opening. Anyone else suitably grabbed by the opening to tell me what was going on?
I mean, the Latin.
No, just any. What was the point of the prologue for the first 2/3? I have to say I was not quite following that. Andrew, you had to say it.
I found it very interesting. I'm a Christian myself, and going through it and reading it for the first time, and seeing how the story unfolds, and the life of Mary Magdalene. It'll be interesting how they depict her in this piece, and the way that she is perceived by the audience. It'll be interesting to know how people would see her, because did she actually go into this type of life because she had to, or was it her decision that she went into this type of life? That's always my question in my head. I don't think it really gives the answer in the Bible as much, but yeah, I've always pondered what the actual reason of Mary Magdalene. I really feel in my heart that she had to do it for her to live, basically, and meeting Jesus and changing her ways really was a thoughtful part, and a light in her life. It was because she was living in darkness before, and a light was shone over her life by the presence of Jesus being there. And yeah, I really thought that, especially in the second half of the prologue, I think it was depicting that and giving that to the audience. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean the opening of it, when we've not just the Latin but also just the what is the prologue doing? Any thoughts in the room?
It's fed up about something, isn't it?
Yes, sorry, Stephen, go on, please.
No, it's all right. I was just going to ramble. You go.
I actually want to hear your rambling before I start mine, so let's do this in order.
Well, the word faculty gets repeated a lot, doesn't it? And I was trying to work out what was meant by faculty, because I couldn't see which sort of part of the human being the faculty was, and I was getting it mixed up in my head with universities, which I expect is wrong.
Well, I'll throw in a little clue for the room. So Lewis Wager was a Franciscan friar at Oxford, and made a subdeacon in 1521. I don't know if that helps you in that, whether that might be a connection that is of use.
It kind of feels like the audience are supposed to know what this is all about, which kind of makes me think this is, if it's not a sequel, it reminds me a little bit from a later period of Ben Jonson defending himself against various sort of charges, imagined or real. The most important thing for the writer of this is to get the record straight. Oh yes, and by the way, Mary Magdalene in a bit, but
yeah, it does feel like a game of two halves. This opening prologue in that sense. Liza, your thoughts?
Yes. I agree with Stephen that it does feel like a rebuttal of someone else's accusation that someone has accused the faculty of whatever college Wager was in of being in it for the cash. They say much money they do get, and he interestingly doesn't refute it. He says, no, it's actually morally good to give us money. Whether you give halfpence or pence, your gain shall be double before you depart hence. Is wisdom worth no more than a penny, trow you?
Yeah.
So he's like, never mind them, just give us your cash. Which, the accusation of profiting off of their position is a serious one for a Franciscan. Franciscans are the ones that take poverty really seriously. So I don't know. There's some infighting here, which is kind of aided and abetted by the fact that the writer is sort of okay with rhyme and really doesn't give a toss about meter. There's a real William McGonagall feel to some of these lines, or Ogden Nash. Name your favorite non-metrical poet who gets to the rhyme after a certain number of syllables have passed, but you never know quite what that number is. but you know, the convention is that religious drama or morality plays have to be in rhyme. So we wrote this thing that we felt really strong about in sort of basically prosy rhyme that makes some concession to verse. It'll be interesting to see if the tone changes as we go on with the play.
It's quite a strange thing because it feels so occasional. But yeah, Rob read out the bit at the beginning, which is the kind of Samuel French bit, which says this is a play for any amateur group on payment of the appropriate, and then it's this incredibly sort of located teeth grinding.
Well, yeah, I think the Samuel French bit, four may easily play this interlude. You need five. I think the publishing side of that is that's a template bit, isn't it?
Yeah, but why have something which, if you genuinely were going to play Mary Magdalene, you'd cut all of that anyway. It wouldn't help unless you were a Franciscan somewhere else who was having trouble with somebody. So that's the odd thing about it. How it's like they didn't look at it at all before printing it.
Such things have been known. Eric.
I was going to say that also it's kind of like, oh yeah, so since you're going to pay us, we're going to give you like scripture, which is very, very important. It's sort of like the knowledge in scripture and the wisdom in scripture is something that is priceless. Therefore, you must pay us for this kind of thing, and like we will teach you the best lesson, which is about the repentance of Mary Magdalene.
Oh, that's the wait. Now you've just said that's ringing a bell of another morality play that may have done that with an opening prologue, and I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, what price salvation? Cheap at twice the price. And then it gets down to basic plot précis. But also, it's not just saying this is what it's about. It's constantly making this thing of this is from scripture, this is of the gospel, this this is the bit. This is where we got stuff from. And we've had plays where they're really making it clear that this isn't some apocryphal extended narrative that's come through transmission over time. This is direct from the good book itself, and that seems to be important to the author as well as the other things.
It's like the drama equivalent of trying to cite your sources or something, but like for university.
Yeah, I think that's an element of it, Stephen.
Well, I just wonder because there are all sorts of stories about biblical figures which don't make it into the Bible, and they would be associated with a Catholic past. So I wonder if the kind of shadow of the Reformation is looming over this. This is not the kind of apocryphal when Moses met the unicorn crap that people used to do. This is actually proper biblical. Huge amount of saints' lives and gospels, of course, knocking about the place. Which were dramatized and part of the life of people pre-16th century.
Yeah, I mean that's the difference between this and Digby. I'm going to suggest, which is very, very Catholic, and based on the extended narrative of Mary Magdalene. But it also reminds me of Bale and just putting in footnotes in the middle of speech, just to make it clear. This is from X book of verse, etc. Making it very clear where bits are coming from. Eric.
Also, there's that thing of it goes from like the religious, like Mark and Luke, to the secular doctors of high learning and wit and discretion. It's like, yes, we have the best recommendations, and they are both religious and secular. Therefore, you must listen, sit down, and shut up, kind of thing.
And it's also around about this time we had the couple of fragmentary mystery or sort of semi-mystery plays from this time, where there is literally a prologue type figure walks in and says, now the scene you've just watched, you may have noticed, isn't actually in the Bible. We've inferred it from this bit, and this bit. But just to make it absolutely clear, that isn't 100% true. It's just to demonstrate things, being really clear about which part of the dramaturgy is provable and what is not.
Not any Channel 5 rubbish here.
No, absolutely. This is a proper BBC documentary, you know, with showing all your sources. So it does seem to be something that's really important when, you know, to a certain Protestant aesthetic, if that makes sense. Okay, Eric, we're getting a lot out of this program.
I was just going to say that because you mentioned the fragmentary plays, it reminded me of that play that we did, like that sort of monologue or whatever it was, prologue, we're not entirely sure. That was all about like, it was like, you know, faith is nothing without mercy, is nothing without so-and-so. I can't remember the exact text, but it was like this really long thing about, oh yeah, but it's nothing without, you know, compassion and so on. And it's like, but the greatest of all these is faith. And it's like, okay, we get the point. Like after 2 pages of having read it, it's like, no, that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah, that was a part of a play, which is again from about now, 1550. So yeah, there's a lot of it about, and yeah, it's a good connection. I think we should get down to some drama. I think we should actually read some play. So the play starts off with Infidelity, who will be joined by Magdalene shortly, before the play opens out to more speakers. So here entereth Infidelity, the Vice.
Read it. Hey, down, down, and down a downer. Salvator mundi domini, Kyrie eleison, ite misse est, with pipe up hallelujah. Said libera nos a malo, and so let us be at one. Then every man brought in his own dish. Lord God, we had wonderful good fare. I warrant you, there was plenty of flesh and fish. Go to, I beshrew your heart, if you spare. God's name, I was set up at the high dish. Come up, sir, said everybody unto me. Like an honest man, I had the first miss. Glad was he that might my proper person see. When we had dined, every man to horseback, and so up unto the Mount of Calvary. I trow you never heard of such a knack. Much woe had some of us to scape the pillory. But when we came to high Jerusalem, who then but I, Master Infidelity? Mary, I was not so called among them. No, I have a name, more nigher the verity. In jury, Mosaical justice is my name. I would have them justified by the law. It's plain infidelity to believe the same. What then? From the faith I do them withdraw. There is one come into the country of late called Christ, Son of God, the Jews' Messiahs. The kingdom of God he beginneth to prate, but he shall never bring his purpose to pass. No, I, Infidelity, stick so much in the Jews' hearts that his doctrine and wonders they will not believe. I warrant that the chief rulers in these parts will devise somewhat his body to mischieve. Infidelity, no, beware of me, infidelity. Like as faith is the root of all goodness, so am I the head of all iniquity, the well and spring of all wickedness, marry sir. Yet I convey my matters clean, like as I have the visor of virtue. So my imps, which are unto my person do lean, the visor of honesty doth endue as these. Pride I used to call cleanliness. Envy I colour with the face of prudence. Wrath putteth on the coat of manliness. Covetous is profit in every man's sentence. Sloth or idleness I paint out with quiet. Gluttony or excess I name honest cheer. Lechery, used for many men's diet, I set on with a face of love, both far and near. How say you to infidelity once again? Infidelity all men's hearts do occupy. Infidelity now above true faith doth remain, and shall do to the world's end, I think, verily. Yea, that same Messias doth many things, yet I will so occupy the rulers' minds, both of bishops, Pharisees, elders, and kings, that few or none of them shall be his friends.
I wasn't going to stop at this point, but I'm so going to stop at this point. Lots of things, so many things. Let's just start with the opening of that speech. What is he doing at the opening of that speech? I mean, it's.
No idea.
Yeah, I thought you did it very well, but it was like none of the lines quite fitted together for quite a long time. Thoughts?
Yeah. It seems to me to be a parody mass. And again, what people were saying about the specter of the Reformation, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, but didn't the mass shift from Latin to English when the Reformation happened?
The Bible shifted, didn't it? I'm not sure how quickly the mass went, because Latin was the educated language. I think Elizabeth used to have a service in Latin in her private chapel. I expect, but I have no idea, that you're right.
So hearing these scraps of Latin, Salvator Mundi Domine, Lord the Savior of the world, Kyrie eleison, which is what you hear at the beginning of the Mass, Lord have mercy, Ite missa est, which is what you hear at the end of the Mass, it's the go, that's a Mass, that the priest says, that tells you it's time to go. And Alleluia, sed libera nos a malo is, and deliver us from evil, which of course is something the Vice loves. And then after Mass, now I wonder if this is a representation of a feast that the Vice is just referring to that takes place after a Mass, because I think after Mass you're not supposed to eat meat. If it's a Sunday, I think it's the Lord's Day, and under Catholicism at least, it's a fast day, so you can eat like vegetables, or whether this is the context of the play, whether it was meant to be performed, say, in a college hall after dinner. The Vice on the high dais, which I'm pretty sure that's meant to be a dais, like a raised part of the stage. And is he saying that he has a mace, like the speaker has a mace, something like that?
Oh, was it the mess?
Oh,
I had the first.
Ah, so he was set in the place of honor at the table. So that again could give us clues to, one idea potentially as to how this may possibly have been staged. I'm qualifying that with a lot of mays and possiblies because it's not certain knowledge, but it's what I'd call a fertile guess.
Well, I'm just wondering if it's almost like this sort of contracted, very relaxed parody Mass thing is almost just like saying grace before dinner. So we did this and then we tucked in, and I had, it does feel like an anecdote, doesn't it? The way he's coming in and saying, and then we had so much food, it was great, and I was in the best seat, and it feels like he's saying that almost as someone he's just walking with and they're not there anymore. It's such a it's dynamic. I mean, the thing is, it does grab us as a speech. It works very well. I just don't quite know what's going on.
It really confused me, because it was going from something happening in the here and now to something, talking about something that had happened, to saying I'm not Mary. So it was whizzing across different stories to me.
Yeah, I was trying to decide if that was Mary or Mary. It's a really weird moment.
Oh, I see.
I was thinking it might be a double R saying, Mary, I was not called infidelity.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Got you.
Yeah, because we've got the name game. We have got the name game of renaming all the Vices as good people, which is a game we get all the time in morality plays. I should point out we're going to get into the whole question of genre later. Don't worry about that.
So the Vice says that his name, again, we get, a sniff of what's likely to be quite a lot of anti-Semitism, because that's a feature of these plays, unfortunately.
It's a feature of this week, I think it's fair to say, in terms of our scheduling.
So he says, in Jewry, Mosaical justice is my name. That is the law of Moses, right?
Higher than verity, higher than truth is Mosaical
Yes.
justice. Yeah. I'll go to Andrew next.
I thought that the opening speech for Infidelity was introducing himself, like, to the audience, to basically say who he is and what will be looking into within the piece, and by doing so, he was allowing the audience to understand why he's there in the first place. I don't know if anybody else agrees with that. That's how I took it.
Once we're into it, yeah, it's that very opening of how he comes into the room that is that confusing bit. Once he gets going, then absolutely he introduces who he is, sort of name checks all his mates, who we may or may not meet later.
Is the beginning bit more like like bringing over his presence of what type of character he is, rather than what he's about to say? Is that what is the beginning part, more breathing the character over to show a substance of him?
I mean, it definitely seems parodic in some
Yeah.
fashion. Eric.
Well, there was like he introduces his imps and stuff who haven't renamed themselves, as he's renamed them himself. But also, it's interesting that like there's 7 of them, and in the prologue we got information that Christ pulled 7 spirits out. Spirits here, I'm guessing, means like evil spirits. 7 spirits out of Mary, and there's 7 of them, so it's like all 7 sins, yay! I think it's quite interesting to like that this like infidelity is the boss in this case. Like if this were a video game, this would be like the final state, like the final big boss that you would be fighting against, rather than the devil or Satan or something.
I cast virtue.
Yes. I think the video game reference might be very, very appropriate. I think that actually works quite well for quite a few morality plays, especially anything allegorical in that fashion works quite well. Any other thoughts before we move on into actual dialogue? I keep saying we'll get to some actual dialogue. We will, honest.
I know what I was sorry, Robert. I was thinking there's a Disney film. I'm trying to think what it's called, where it does a different part of somebody's mind or thought.
Inside Out.
Inside Out, and it's
No.
a little bit like that. I think this play, showing the different sides of a person, how they can be, basically.
That's basically how we should do all morality plays with allegorical figures. Is to just they should be animated by Disney. I think that's we should make that rule.
Probably people understand them more.
Maybe the 7 deadly sins should be his minions.
Yeah. Oh God.
But also you've got like sort of infidelity, like the word infidelity is mentioned so many times in case you forget who this is.
Yes. Let's move on. Let's introduce Mary Magdalene to the scene. So Infidelity has introduced himself, name checked all his mates with their assumed and their real names. Here entereth Mary Magdalene, trifling with her garments.
I beshrew his heart, naughty foolish knave, the most bungleriest tailors in this country, that be in the world, I think, so God me save. Not a garment can they make for my degree. Have you ever seen an overbody thus sit? Now a mischief on this drunken knave's ear. The knaves drink till they have lost their wit, and then they mar utterly a body's gear. I had liefer than 20 shillings by this light, that I had him here now in my fume and heat. What, I'm ashamed to come in any man's sight. Think you, in the waste, I am so great? Nay, by just 20 shillings I dare hold. There is not a gentlewoman in this land more proper than I in the waist, I dare be bold. They be my garments that so bungerly do stand. Beshrew his heart, once again, with all my heart, is this gear no better than to cast away? Let him trust to it, I will make him to smart, for marring of my gear he shall surely pay.
God forbid, Mistress Mary, and you so tender and young. For marring of your gear he is greatly to blame.
What have you to do? Hold your babbling tongue. Have you anything to do with the same?
Well, those unhappy tailors, I trow, be accursed. Most commonly, when they make a gentlewoman's gear, in the midst they set the piece that is worst. That's the fashion of them everywhere. The worst piece is in the midst of your garment, and it is pieced into it so unhappily that, by my troth, it's past amendment. Meddle with it, and you spill it utterly.
Speak you in earnest, or I pray you do you mock? Trow you that my garment cannot be amended?
Mock? I know that you came of a worshipful stock. He that mocketh you ought to be reprehended. Tailor's craft, I tell you, I have some skill, and if I should meddle with the piece that is in the midst, I should make it worse, or at least as ill. Therefore, to let it alone as it is, I judge it best. Naught it is, and soon you may wear it out. Though it be new, it will be soon worn.
It were almost to hang such a foolish lout. All they that see me now will laugh me to scorn. No gentlewoman is ordered in this wise. My maidens on the other side are such sluts that if I should not for mine own clothes devise, within a while they would not be worth a couple of nuts.
Oh, my truth, it were pity, in mine opinion, but that your gear should be well trimmed. You were well favoured, pretty minion. Feet, clean made, well compact, aptly limbed. In Jerusalem there is not, I dare say, a sweeter countenance, nor a more loving face, fresh and flourishing as the flowers in May. I have not seen a gentlewoman of a more goodly grace. Your parents, I know, were very honourable, which have left you worshipfully to live here, and certainly I judge it very commendable that with your own you can make good cheer.
I thank you for your good word, gentle friend, and for as much as you did know my parents, I can no less do than love you with all my mind, ready to do you pleasure at all commandments.
Verba puellum folies leoria caducis. The promise of maidens, the poet doth say, be as stable as a weak leaf in the wind, like as a small blast bloweth a feather away. So a fair word truly changeth a maiden's mind. Forsooth, I thank you, O loving worm, good lord. Yea, I knew your father's state and condition. The nobility of Jewry can bear me record that he was a man of a worshipful disposition. I wish, Mistress Mary, I had you in mine arms. Before you were 3 years of age, without doubt. I preserved you many times from sore harms, which in your childhood your enemies went about. A gentle woman of noble birth, as I do think, should always have servants at her commandment. You are able to give to many both meat and drink, yea, honest wages, and also necessary raiment.
I perceive right well that you owe me goodwill, tendering my worshipful state and dignity. You see that I am young, and can little skill to provide for mine own honour and utility. Wherefore, I pray you in all things counsel to have, after what sort I may lead a pleasant life here. And look what it pleaseth you of me to crave, I will give it you gladly as it shall appear.
Say you so, Mistress Mary? Will you put me in trust? In faith, I will tell you, you cannot trust a wiser. You shall live pleasantly, even at your heart's lust, if you make me your counsellor and deviser. Remember, you are young, full of dalliance, lusty, courageous, fair, beautiful, and wise, I will have you to attempt all kinds of pastance, using all pleasure at your own heart's devise. Do you not think it is not more than madness, the lusty and pleasant life of a man's youth, miserably to pass away in study, sadness? It's extreme folly, Mistress Mary, for a truth. Be ye merry, and put away all fantasies. One thing is this, you shall never be younger, indeed. Your bodily pleasure I would have you exercise. Sure, you are of worldly substance never to need.
Certainly. My parents brought me up in childhood in virtuous qualities and godly literature, and also they bestowed on me much good to have me nurtured in noble ornature. But evermore they were unto me very tender. They would not suffer the wind on me to blow. My requests they would always to me render, whereby I knew the good will that to me they did owe. At their departing their goods they distributed among us, their children, whom they did well love. But me, as their darling, they most reputed, and gave me the greatest part, as it did behove.
Puella pestis indulgentia parentum. Of parents, the tender and carnal sufferance is to young maidens a very pestilence. It's a provocation, a furtherance unto all lust and fleshly concupiscence. Ah, Mistress Mary, your parents did see that you were beautiful and well favoured. They did right well, it seemeth me, that so worshipfully they have you furthered. As I understand, you have in your possession the whole castle of Magdalene, with the pertinence which you may rule at your discretion, and obtain thereby riches in abundance. What worldly pleasure can you want? What commodities have you of your own? About Jerusalem is not such a plant, as to me and many other is well known. It were decent, I say, to use the fruition of such richness as is left you here. You never heard in any erudition, but that one with his own should make good cheer.
By my troth, so would I, if I perfectly knew which way I should good cheer-making begin. A lusty disposition from me doth ensue, but without counsel I'm not worth a pin.
Counsel? In you shall want no counsel indeed. I know where a certain company is, which can give you such counsel in time of need, that you following them can never speed amiss.
Now I pray you, help me to that company, and look what I am able to do for your pleasure. You shall have it, I promise you verily, yea, whether it be lands, gold, or treasure.
But the truth is so. They, whom now I speak of, are persons of great honour and nobility, fellows that love neither to dally nor scoff, but at once will tell you the verity.
Men of honour, say you. Tell me, I you desire, can you cause them trow you shortly to be here? I will go and provide some other attire, that according to my birth I may appear.
Birth, faith of my body, you are well arrayed. I warrant you with these clothes they will be content. They'd liefer have you naked. Be not afraid than with your best holy day garment.
You are a merry man indeed. You are a wanton. I will go and return by and by. As I am, I would with all my heart be known, so that I might be pleasant to every man's eye.
I pray you heartily that I may be so bold to have a kiss or two before you depart.
If a kiss were worth 100 pound of gold, you should have it, even with my very heart.
And exit Mary.
Yes! I thank you, Mistress Mary, by my maidenhood. Oh, Lord, what a pleasant kiss was this of you. Take her with you. I warrant you will never be good. She is given to it. I make God avow, and I trow I shall help to set her forward. Shortly, my offspring and I shall her so dress that neither law nor prophet she shall regard. No, though the Son of God to her them express. Infidelity is my name, you know, indeed. Properly, I'm called the serpent's seed. Look in whose heart my father Satan doth me sow, there must all iniquity and vice needs grow. The conscience, where I dwell, is a receptacle for all the devils in hell to have their habitacle. You shall see. Mary's heart, within short space, for the devil himself shall be a dwelling place. I will so dress her, that there shall not be a worse. To her the devil at pleasure shall have his recourse. I will go and prepare her for such a company as shall poison her with all kinds of villainy.
Moo ha 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 ha. Yes, and before he can exit, we have the entrance of various peoples. Lots and lots and lots of stuff there. I'm just wondering about Infidelity, whether he's got a few asides in there. There's a
there's definitely some asides.
You've got those Latin bits and those the beginning of speeches, which seem definitely to be the complete opposite of what you say immediately afterwards. So it seems they must be asides.
I mean, that one about the little girl. I mean, that's got to be something like indulgent parents are the bane of a girl or something like that.
Mm.
And then he says, "Oh, your parents did a really good job with you."
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting. Mary gets a great entry, and also gets a, I think, shout out to bunglerist of tailors, Terence who bungle things. I spent ages just checking that was actually correct. I would have been very disappointed if that was a typo.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, I sew a bit myself, and I might appropriate the adjective bunglery to bunglerist to use of myself.
Yeah, but yeah, we've got a bungleriest of tailors and bungly work. So we've got many bunger variations to play with. But yes, it's interesting. I was wondering what I'm sure there is an innuendo about things being in the midst of the area of a garment.
He will wear the bit out in the middle.
Yeah,
he says at one point.
Yeah, it felt a bit tenuous, like it really had to be worked to work. It didn't quite, you know, it's full of all that sort of low level innuendo.
But there is I mean, if you see it as just, you know, basic leching, there's a lot of basic leching all the way through, I think.
I think, yes, this is where my inadequate warning at the beginning, there's going to be quite a lot of leching, I think, is going to be. Did I mention it was written by a monk? Just throwing that one in there. Not saying he's working through anything. Not saying that at all. Other thoughts?
Too busy singing to put anybody down, I think.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, Infidelity is a merry man, a wanton. You know, she, you know, and the thing is, it's constantly emphasizing that she's young, she's beautiful. You know, she obviously has interest in fashion. You know, the play is you know, pushing us in that sort of way of saying, well, that's the roots into vice, isn't it? Here, you know, these youthful things.
I really liked your performance of Mary, because you made her so sweet. I thought, you know, she could, you know, even the bit at the beginning with the strop is kind of, I don't know, mid-teen strop. You know, it's not. So I thought that was a really nice. That worked really well. I think as a counterpoint between the two figures there. You know, there wasn't any sense that you were sort of given to vice or anything like that yourself. You were just dead sweet.
Thank you. I mean, my idea of Mary here, and as we go on, I'm sure we'll learn more. But that, you know, that she is young, that she is fairly innocent. Her parents, it's made clear her parents didn't discipline her enough. It's the Middle Ages. Fun is illegal. It's not the Middle Ages. We're sort of edging towards the Renaissance here.
We're very much in the middle of a period when people are really, really laying this stick on children. Beat them, people. Bad things happen if you don't do that.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
So her sins at this point are pride and vanity, but nothing worse than that. And she just happens upon infidelity and asks him to be her counselor. She doesn't know any better. She doesn't know that he's, in fact, a minor demon, like a serpent. You were saying the seed of the serpent tempting a second Eve. That she is innocent at this point, but unfortunately, because she's unable to discern between good and evil, she can be corrupted.
Yes, and she's about to bring even more problems into her life. Eric?
I was going to say that it reminded me a bit of like the whole thing we did with nature, where it's like, man is supposed to be perfectly innocent, of course. And then suddenly like all these vices come in, and it's like, sensuality came in to say, well, I would like to advise you, but you have to let go of reason and so on and so forth. It's not quite the same tone, obviously, but like,
I think that it's a really good parallel, because there's a reasonableness to nature about the way the progression towards sin. It's not like someone turns up and goes, "Hi, sin's, great." It just actually makes a very reasonable argument that you need X and you need Y in your life. There needs to be this. If you're going to have balance, you have to have all the opinions, including all the really bad things. Maybe you should have a few more bad things in your life. Maybe just a few more. Maybe there's just too much. We're just hearing too much from this good elite that keeps saying things. We should have more of the other things. And so there's a bit of that. His infidelity is presenting. He's flattering. It's constantly flattering, saying nice things about how wise you. It's not just you're young and beautiful. There's the wisdom as well. You're wise to have me as your counselor, and all my other counselors I will bring on in a moment.
Well, there's also that thing about the tailors and clothing again, which Medwall obviously loved to talk about.
That's true,
also.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a morality play thing that is just like a trope that gets used over and over again, but it's very interesting.
I don't think explicitly in that sense, but certainly costume to denote who you are is important. And within this context, I mean, it is quite charming. Comes in and go, do you really think does the person making this dress really think I'm this big? So it could be there's because it's playful with the audience as well, because you are asking the audience to does this fit? What do you think?
Yeah, that it's one of the things is that if it's voluminous and doesn't fit the actor's small waist, using a lot of fabric was a sumptuous thing for garments. That it's one way you show status is a garment that uses a lot of fabric, and presumably this gown is going to be gaudy and vain and shiny and sparkly and more likely, of course, in a company of players, more likely to be painted with gold, and the spangles will be brass instead of the real thing. But I'm sure it's a magnificent garment. Now, when Infidelity talks in his speech after her exit, when he talks about dressing her for the devil, I don't know if he's actually talking about costume or whether he's talking about dressing as in the way you would prepare meat for a feast. Because women get compared with that a lot. There's this proverb that a woman is dressed by the devil for their feast. So it's that misogyny of a sexualized woman as something to be consumed.
Of course, it might be both. I would not be unsurprised if there is a costumery element to this.
I'm looking forward to that part.
Yeah, Eric.
I also found it interesting that Infidelity doesn't announce her. He just kind of obviously stands aside or something and she appears. Whereas other plays sort of do the whole signposting or whatever you want to call it. Oh, look, Mary is here. come on, we have a play to do, kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. Though the signposting, perhaps, for the entrance of the other sins that are coming in now, there's a good solid cue in there. Kinds of villainy. You hear villainy, and send in the clowns. Send in the pride for people. Pride, cupidity, and carnal concupiscence, which is where we're going to go now. Says we have an almost full stage. Mary's exited, but all the vices now crowding on. So infidelity was on. Here entereth pride of life, cupidity, and carnal concupiscence.
Whither art thou going now, infidelity?
Pride of life, now welcome, the spring of iniquity. Oh, pride of life, thou never usest to go alone. Oh, give me your hands also, I pray you, one by one. Welcome, pride of life, with my whole heart and mind. And thou art welcome, cupidity, mine own friend. What? Minikin, carnal concupiscence. Thou art welcome heartily by my conscience.
To see thee merry, infidelity, I am right glad.
When infidelity is in health, I cannot be sad.
Infidelity, oh infidelity, mine own infidelity, I am glad to see thee merry now for a surety. I marvel what thou dost in this place alone. I thought that out of jury thou hadst been gone.
Out of jury, no carnal lust. To thee I may tell that with the chief princes now I do dwell. Bishops, priests, and Pharisees do me so retain, that the true sense of the law they do disdain.
In faith, there is some knavery in mind, that here by thyself alone we do thee find.
Infidelity in our Father's cause is occupied, as within a while it shall be verified.
Am I? You'd say so, if you knew all. I was going forth you to call. Know you not a wench called Mary Magdalene?
Do I know her? Well, she's a pretty wench and a clean. Since she had discretion her have I known. Mary Magdalene, quod he, indeed she's mine own. And she's as proud a little girl as truly I think as ever men so in this world eat or drink.
And somewhat do with her now, and then I allure for her own profit always to save. I have dressed her so well truly I believe, that already for God's sake nothing she will give.
For my part in her I have kindled such a fire, that she beginneth to burn in carnal desire.
Tush, as yet you have but her mind moved, whom she may forsake if she be reproved. I would have her cleave unto you so fast, that she shall not forsake you while her life doth last.
If thou be once rooted within the heart, then mayest thou make an entrance by thy crafted art, so that we may come into her at pleasure, filling her with wickedness beyond all measure. In us four without fail be contained as many vices as ever in this world reigned. Now if we by thy means may in her remain, she shall be sure all kinds of vices to contain.
Within myself, you know that I contain a sort, which by name before you hear I will report. My name is carnal concupiscence, or desire, which all the pleasures of the flesh doth require. First, the flesh to nourish with drink and meat, without abstinence, like a beast, alway to eat, to quash and drink when there is no necessity, joying in excess, merely cheer and ebriety. I contain in myself all kind of lechery, fornication, whoredom, and wicked adultery, rape, incest, sacrilege, softness and bestiality, blindness of mind, with every such quality, inconstancy, headiness, and inconsideration, after the heart's poison and filthy communication. So then to the hate of God I do them bring, causing a love in himself inordinately to spring. These and such like I contain in my person. Thus you see that carnal lust goeth never alone.
Thou hast reckoned an abominable rabble. Where thou dwellest, the devil may have a stable.
With thee I may boldly compare, I trow, for as many vices in me as in thee do grow. You know that my name is called Cupidity, whose scripture calleth the root of all iniquity. Infidelity indeed is the seed of all sin, but cupidity openeth the gate, and letteth him in. I contain theft, deceit in selling and buying, perjury, rape, and dissimulation and lying, hardiness of heart, otherwise called inhumanity, inquietness of mind, falsehood, and vanity. In me is all vengeance and envy and recoil, and ire and murder and war and treason and greedy desire. I contain the wicked vices of usury, dice and card, playing with all kind of injury. What mischief was there ever yet or sin, but that cupidity did it first of all begin?
There cannot be a more filthy place in hell than that is whereas cupidity doth dwell.
Yea, there is impiety, the contempt of God's law. His word is no more regarded than a vile straw.
You contain vices very wicked indeed, but how wicked is he from whom all sin doth proceed? The beginning of sin, which doth man from God divide, Scripture call it nothing else but pride. For I myself not only contain you three, but all vices in you, and that in every degree. Pride despiseth God, and committeth idolatry. To God and man pride is a very adversary. I am full of boasting, arrogancy, and vainglory, envious and of all other men's wealth right sorry. Pride causeth obstinacy and disobedience. Yea, it engendereth idleness and negligence. The truth of God's prophets through tyrants of pride have ever unto this day been cast aside. The men of God pride hath spitefully reputed, and with tyrants always the same persecute. Pride would never suffer any virtue to reign, but oppressed it with great malice and disdain. In short, some, and few words you shall know all. Pride caused Lucifer from heaven to hell to fall. Yea, pride lost mankind and did him so infect, that God from his favor did him away reject. Whereas pride is a token, it is evident that all other vices be even there resident.
Whereas you and all your offspring doth dwell, there is a place for all the devils in hell. And plain it is, whereas is such filthy sin, that even in this world their hell doth begin. By such time as with us Mary be furnished, with the devil himself she shall be replenished.
In our tragedy we may not use our own names, for that would turn to all our rebukes and shames.
Pride, with all thy abominable store, at this time must be called nobility and honour.
Very well, for these women that be vicious are always high-minded and ambitious.
Never a woman that could play a harlot's part was either humble or yet meek in heart.
Yea, and the same loved alway cupidity. Therefore thy name shall be called Utility.
For him a better name you could not express, for ill-disposed women are always merciless.
They are always scraping, clawing, and gathering to maintain their lives in wickedness and sin.
Carnal concupiscence shall be called pleasure, and that pretty Mary loveth beyond all measure.
Infidelity may not be called infidelity.
And no, we will work with a little more austerity. Infidelity, for diverse respects, hath names diverse, of which the sum of them to you I purpose to rehearse. With bishops, priests, scribes, seniors, and Pharisees, and with as many as be of the Jews' degrees, I am called legal justice, commonly. For why by the law themselves they do justify. It is plain infidelity so to believe, and therefore there such a name to myself I do give. I have a garment correspondent to that name, by the which I walk among them without blame. With publicans and sinners of a carnal pretence, I'm sometime called counsel, sometime prudence. I cause them the wisdom of God to despise, and for the flesh and the world wittily to devise. Prudence before Mary my name I will call, which to my suggestions will cause her to fall. A vesture I have here to this garment correspondent. Oh, here it is, a gown I trow convenient.
For our honour, I pray thee heartily do it wear.
Mary did talk with me before in this gear, but because she shall the sooner to me apply.
And here we have the stage direction put on a gown and a cap.
I will dress me in these garments, even by and by. How thinketh you by me now, in this array? Mary loveth them, I tell you, that used to go gay.
Then hast thou need to mend thy foolish countenance, for thou lookest like one that hath lost his remembrance.
With the one eye overmuch thou usest to wink, that thou meanest some fraud, thereby they will think that he that looketh with one eye and winketh with another, I would not trust, say they, if he were my brother.
Like obstinate friars, I temper my look, which had one eye on a wench and another on a book. A passion of God, behold, yonder cometh Mary. See that in your tales none from other do vary.
It is a pretty wench, that it is indeed. Much to entreat her, I think we shall not need.
No, for I think she is ill enough of herself. She seemeth to be proud of little else.
I pray you behold how she trimmeth her gear. She would have all well about her everywhere. And we'll pause there because that's the entrance of Mary. Stage direction is not included. There's nothing like getting 4 of the 7 in the room, or 3 of the 7, or however we're going to break it down. It's the way they're sort of going. We've got we're doing we've got all the major vices in the room. We don't need more. It's not like we don't have a budget, so we can't afford more. So that's a good thing that we don't need more. That was disturbingly enjoyable considering how horrible that was. In places, there's some really not very well disguised misogyny through a lot of that. Question about the winking. Is that a thing that is infidelity, trying out too much winking there, or is that, or am I being too literal when he was talking about winking and to the law?
I think they seem to be giving him kind of notes, don't they?
Mm.
Loved your performance, but just row back on the winking a little bit.
Yeah, because he's put on his costume and his thing, and he's like he's pretending, and then he winks at them, going, "Look, I'm not really. I'm still the same person." To a point where it's just a twitch, being a bit too much. Mary, how did you find? Obviously, Mary isn't in the room, but how did you find how they were all talking about you?
Well, it's interesting. They give you a few clues as to what the actor can be doing I think Passion of God, behold, yonder cometh Mary. I think that's when you become visible to the audience, whatever the setup is, whether you're coming through a center aisle or, and Pride notes that she's pretty, and Greed notes that she's proud, and Concupiscence says, "Oh, hey, look, I pray you behold how she trimmeth her gear. She would have all well about her everywhere." And so presumably Mary is like making the final adjustments to her hair and her outfit before she flounces onto the stage here. The other thing I thought was interesting was that Pride, to whom the last speech is given, Pride describes themselves as the evil from whom all other sins do proceed. How wicked is he from whom all sin doth proceed. And in a lot of, I mean, I'm not sure where this originates from, but I'm very used to seeing radix malorum est cupiditas. I know Chaucer cites it, but before that, that the root of all evils is in fact greed or cupidity rather than pride. But then, I suppose, each sin has a claim to be the root of all evil.
Paradise Lost, I think, has got pride, hasn't it? In it.
By that sin, Lucifer fell.
And I seem to recall that's the in the Chester cycle. That's the thing they do ram home a lot. The sin of pride, but it might be that there's just different fashions for which one that people go for, and it might be something to do with again a new emerging theology that it's trying to make its own decisions as to what the author think is the most important on that front as well. I think that's possibly one that's too specialised for us. Maybe a viewer out there who knows more will be able to tell us. Put something in the comments.
He does seem to lean pretty hard into liking pretty clothes makes you evil. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's like an episode of CSI Miami. Any or any CSI, anything fun will kill you. Or in this version, anything fun will lead to a slippery slope, people. Slippery slope. Eric,
beware.
I was just gonna say that the bit where all three of the vices are like, I'm the root of all evil. You can kind of imagine them like shoving each other, sort of like out of the way. Like, no, I'm more evil, or sort of like in a Three Stooges kind of way.
4 Yorkshire Vices.
Yeah.
Root of all evil.
Luxury in my day. And I think the way that vices tend not to work very well together, that would work very nicely. Actually, that would make sense. Certainly gives the actors something to play with, because that's things that you've got people making long speeches, and though there's a certain amount, there's a good amount of back and forth between them, they are working quite well as a unit so far. They're not really fighting in textual terms. We haven't had a fight yet, basically. We've had four vices on stage for a while now. Someone should have drawn their dagger by now.
Unlike last time where it was like Envy was like, I hate everybody, so like I'm gonna set this up so that they just like don't.
I think we had daggers drawn every 2 minutes on that one. It was
but no battle.
Very knife heavy. Any other thoughts? We're heading to the point where we're entering area of text where we will make a decision as to when to stop. I will be hunting from now on for a good pause point for this session, but we're not quite there yet. Just throwing that out there to note. Mary has entered the room, people. Mary, give it your all.
Maids, quoth she, there is no gentlewoman, I ween, so accumbered as I am, for such were never seen. Fie on them! In good faith they are too bad, they would make some gentlewoman stark mad. Like as I put off my gear, so I do it find. and I cannot tell how oft I have told them my mind. By the faith of my body, if they do not amend, to lay them on the bones, surely I do intend.
Maxima quaeque domus service plena superbis. Every great house, as the poet doth say, is full of naughty servants, both night and day.
Ye say truth, sir, indeed. What? Old acquaintance? Now, forsooth, you were out of my remembrance. You have changed your array since I was here. I'm glad to see you merry and of a good cheer.
And I of yours, Mistress Mary, with heart and mind. It is a joy to see a gentlewoman so loving and kind. Shall I be bold to kiss you at our meeting?
What else? It is an honest manner of greeting.
Please it you to bid these gentlemen welcome.
Yea, forsooth are they heartily all and some. I will kiss you all for this gentleman's sake. He is a friend of mine, as I do him take.
He is indeed, you may be sure, Mistress Mary. There is no man living can say the contrary.
He hath been diligent to seek us together, and for your sake he hath caused us to come hither.
I dare say thus much, that he is your friend, for he loveth you with his whole heart and mind. He hath been diligent about your cause, as it had been his own, and would never pause till he had performed his desired request.
Which I am able to say is very honest. A gentle friend, so little acquaintance. Will you look so much unto my furtherance? It seemeth then, if by me you had been benefited, you would have my kindness greatly requited.
Quos majestadi tuo majestas tuit ignis. The more closely that you keep fire, no doubt the more fervent it is when it breaketh out.
Well, friend, I know what you mean by that verse. What I will do for you at this time I will not rehearse. But in one thing truly I am much to blame, that in all this time I have not inquired your name.
Sweet Mistress Mary, I am called Prudence, or else a counsel, full of wisdom and science. Here unto you, honourable honour, I have brought a person always to be in your mind and thought. This person is named Utility, very profitable for your commodity. A Pleasure is the name of this minion, convenient for you, forsooth, in mine opinion.
Prudence, honour, utility, and pleasure. Oh, who would desire in this world more treasure? Gramercy, heart of gold, for your great pain. Truly, of necessity, I must kiss you once again.
Will you so? That is the thing that I would. Every kiss to me is worth a crown of gold.
Ooh.
Leave kissing and treat we of matters more earnest. Let us reason of things concerning your request. Honor is my name, a quality for you requisite, or rather of honor I am an appetite, on the which must be all your meditation with the heart's courage and mind's elevation. I tell you, this desire must be ever next your heart.
Yea, whoa there, Baccare, you must stand apart. You love me best, I trow, Mistress Mary.
For £100 I would not say the contrary. And in token, Prudence, that I love you best, here I join you next unto my heart and breast.
If ye embrace one, you must all embrace, for our use is to dwell all in one place.
Thou art muted, O concupiscence.
Indeed I am. Tush! From our purpose, alway we do digress. Let every one of us his qualities express.
Agreed. Mistress Mary, hear you my counsel. First, all thought from your heart you must expel. Trouble not yourself with any fantasies, nor never attend you to the law, nor prophecies, for they were invented to make fools afraid. Hear them not, for they will make you dismayed. God Tush, when was God to any man seen? I had not been alive now if any God had been.
Homo homini Deus. Man is God to man, this matter is plain. And believe you that none other God doth reign.
Man is the beginning of his own operation, ergo, then of none other God's creation. Man is his own, God therefore with utility. Let him labour here to live in felicity.
Of many ladies I am certain you have heard, which the people as goddesses did regard, and why this was the cause truly, in my judgment, they had all pleasure here at their commandment, so that they lived in joy, wealth, and prosperity, using all pleasures for their own commodity.
To be a goddess yourself, truly you must believe. And that you may be so, your mind thereto you must give. All other gods beside yourself you must despise, and set at naught their scripture in any wise.
How say you, Mistress Mary? Do we not agree all in one?
Surely, Mistress Mary, we will make you a goddess anon.
You please me exceedingly well, verily. Persons you are of great wit and policy.
You must be proud, lofty, and of high mind, despise the poor as wretches of another kind. Your countenance is not ladylike enough yet. I see well that we had need to teach you more wit. Let your eyes roll in your head, declaring your pride. After this sort, you must cast your eyes aside.
How think you by this manner of countenance?
Convenient for such as be not of your acquaintance.
I doubt not but she will do right well her part, but that time that all we be fast within her heart.
Mark the garments of other in any wise, and be you sure of one of the newest guise. Your hair, methink, is as yellow as any gold. Upon your face laid about have it, I would. Sometime on your forehead the breadth of a hand, sometime let your attire upon your crown stand, that all your hair for the most part may be in sight. To many a man a fair hair is a great delight.
In summertime, now and then, to keep away flies, let some of that fair hair hang in your eyes. With a hot needle you shall learn it to crisp, that it may curl together in manner like a wisp.
By my troth, you are a merry gentleman. I will follow your counsel as much as I can.
By your ears sometimes with pretty tusks and toys, you shall fold your hair like tomboys. It becometh a young gentlewoman, be ye sure, and young men unto your love it will allure.
If the colour of your hair beneatheth for to fade, a craft you must have that yellow it may be made. With some goldsmith you may yourself acquaint, of whom you may have water your hair for to paint.
Besides goldsmith's water, there is other gear, very good also to colour again the hair. Yea, if you were not beautiful of your visage, a painter could make you to appear with a lusty courage, and though you were as aged as any creature, a painter on your face would set such an ornature that you should seem young and very fair, and like one whose beauty doth never despair.
Mistress Mary, had ye never ye small paw in your youth?
You are a mad fellow, Prudence, of a truth.
I pray you, Master Prudence, wherefore ask you that?
It is like that in you he hath spied somewhat.
Alas, good gentlewoman, she blushes like coals.
In truth, the bleed about her nose, there be little pretty holes. Therefore I think that she hath had the pox. I mean, good faith. without any gaud or mocks.
If there be any faults in my face, verily, for money I trust shortly to have remedy.
Mistress Mary, there is not a fairer in this town.
Yea, by St. Anne, she is lovely in colour, but brown.
If she be not content with that native colour, a painter will set on one of more honour.
I have known painters that have made old crones to appear as pleasant as little pretty young Jones.
And we'll just pause there briefly. It isn't really a place to pause, but we'll just briefly pause there. So we've got this. This is one extreme makeover going on here.
Vice's eye.
I have to say the hair instructions are not very helpful. They seem quite contradictory at times. It's interesting to note there. So the idea that she's out a lot and therefore has a tan, and therefore she should paint herself to be more pale on that sort of youth, that sort of colour standard that we have, and that she should have golden hair. So there's an interesting beauty standard that's being applied to Mary Magdalene there. Gentlemen prefer blondes, obviously, is what they're saying.
I don't know if these are exactly gentlemen.
I would sincerely think not. But yeah, they're leading you astray in with a makeover.
Yes, makeovers are evil.
The makeover from hell.
Again, we see we see another thing that crops up a lot in these morality plays, and in fact in a lot of plays of this period, which is these kids today. And men are usually reproached for being vain about their clothing, and women are usually reproached for being vain about their beauty. So, can't wear makeup, girls, it's sinful. Can't dye your hair, sinful. Can't, beauty routines, sinful. Fashion, sinful. Etc., etc.
There's also a sort of strange, before we get to the physical stuff, there's some kind of strange self-actualization workshop going on. Believe in yourself to be a goddess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I mean, at one point, I had to stop myself being all Californian about it. Do you know what I mean?
I did like that. I thought that worked very well.
we got as far as like New Mexico, and then we screeched to a halt and went back to Britain.
I think it's fascinating the parallels. That if we take the implied thing here is that there is something better than yourself from which you derive your morality, and this is what happens when there is no God. It's almost like it's written by some kind of post-Nietzschean perspective. With the fall of the West's belief in secure values, all we've got is believing any old stuff that somebody will sell you about your personal growth. We
could see this on Goop, couldn't we?
I mean, really though, it really was striking me all the way through there. I can't remember was it Chesterton. He says, you stop believing in God, it doesn't mean you believe nothing, it means you believe anything.
That's really interesting, because that puts the makeup and the hair coloration in a new light, that she's making herself into a painted image. As again, we're post-Reformation here, and the worship of images is condemned, but she's making herself like a painted saint.
Eric.
I agree with what you said before. Also, I noticed that they seem to be taking turns to speak, like they're sort of what's it called, like pride, infidelity, concupiscence, and then cupidity, and then Mary, and then back to pride, Mary, and so on and so forth. It's just like, yeah.
Well, they also seem to have they're working together quite effectively here, and they're passing the baton between each other.
A tag team, isn't it, a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just also to note, when Mary comes on, she basically does exactly the same entrance as she did last time, but now it's maids. It's not the tailor this time; it's the maids. Oh, you just can't get the staff, can you?
Well, everyone else is on stage. There was no one else backstage to help her change.
Yeah, but yeah, she's definitely coming from a world of privilege and wealth, where she's expecting her servants to be doing better than this. And then we get the kissing. What a lot of kissing! What a lot,
Yeah,
really
lots of
being
it.
passed between the men here in a really quite, I does Cupidity almost suggest a five-way at one point? It's
pretty much.
And Kim Cupidence has to say, "Shall we bring it back to order?" Which is odd because I would have thought I was the one who's supposed to be all for that, but never mind.
Yeah.
And Pride is the one who's like focused.
Yeah. We have a 5-point plan here, people. Let's stick to it. We won't.
Well, also, it's not like they're not behaving in a way that is like in Midwall. We had that thing of Pride was actually proud, whereas like here it's more they're supporting each other.
So I just figured out what one of the type. I couldn't figure out what had you never small paw in your youth.
Small-
That must be
Small
pox,
pox, isn't
must be
it?
pox, yeah.
Yeah.
So I should have got that before, and I looked at it for a whole 5 minutes, going, "What is that?"
This is astonishingly modern in that they are. It's a real tactic to play with her self-esteem, saying, "Oh, she's beautiful. Oh, she's lovely. Hang on, are those pockmarks? Oh my God."
Yeah, they're negging her, aren't they?
Because obviously, if she takes their word that she's the most beautiful person in the world, she won't need to wear paint. But no, there are pockmarks. We have to use sinful makeup to cover those pockmarks.
You could have some real fun with this in a contemporary production, I think, couldn't you? That they would snap into some kind of, I don't know, hypergroom stylist mode, and it's almost like a sketch, straight away. If you did it as part of a show with lots of other kind of tempty things in it, it might work really interestingly as a contrast.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing of, yeah, we could. I keep mentioning Instagram. This is one for an Instagram moment, isn't it? It's trying to get the best image out of her. Oh no, we can't use that photo. It's not quite good enough. Back to the grindstone. We've got a little bit more time to read a little bit further on. I think we'll do a little chunkette before we stop. There isn't really I don't think we'll get to a good logical stopping point overall. So we've just gone from maybe she should put on more makeup. Maybe you should wear more makeup, Mary. Pride takes up the next thing.
Let us return again to our ornaments. I would have you pleasant always in your garments. Upon your forehead you must wear one grace, which like a penthouse may come far over your face, and another from your nose unto your throat. Sorry. Of velvet at the least, without spot or mote. Your garments must be so worn away that your white paps may be seen if you may.
If young gentlemen may see your white skin, it will lure them to love, and soon bring them in.
Both damsels and wives use many such feats. I know them that will lay out their fair teats purposely, men to allure unto their love, for it is a thing that doth the heart greatly move. At such sights of women I have known men indeed that with talking and beholding their noses will bleed through great courage, moved by such goodly sights, labouring the matter further with all their mights.
Your words do not only provoke my desire, but in pleasure they set my heart on fire. Ooh.
Sometimes, for your pleasure, you may wear a paste, but above all then is gird yourself in the waist. Upon your overbody you may nothing else wear, but an unlipped garment without any other gear. Let your body be pent and together strained, as hard as may be, though thereby you be pained.
Use will make the thing easy, there is no doubt. Yea, party gentlewomen use it now all about.
Your nether garments must go by gims and joints, Above your buttocks they must be tied on with points. Some women a doublet of fine linen used to wear, unto the which they tie their other their gear. With wires and hoops your garments must be made. A pleasure your minion shall show you in what trade.
In the waist I will have ye as small as a wand, yea, so small that a man may span you with his hand.
It skilleth not, though in the buttocks you be great.
No, for there she is like many times to be beat.
Well, wantons, well, are ye not ashamed?
Indeed, mistress, they are worthy to be blamed. You must rejoice in your riches and good, and set much by your kindred and noble blood. Boast of them, and when of them you do talk, of their commendations let your tongue evermore walk. Daily thus, my lord, my father, my lady, my mother, my lord, my uncle, and my master, my brother.
I promise you I come of a stock right honourable, therefore my talk of them cannot be too commendable.
It is a stock, they say, right honourable and good, that hath neither these nor her in their blood. No more words. How say you, mistress, here by pleasure?
Oh, forsooth, sweetheart, I love him beyond all measure.
Body of God, for this all while have I wrought. By your smirking look oft times on him, so I thought. What, you love him better than you love me?
Which of you I should love best? Truly I cannot see.
This is a true proverb, and no feigned fable. Few women's words be honest, constant, and stable.
Truly, Mistress Mary, if ye love me, there is nothing lost. Love, they say, jeopardeth all, and spareth for no cost. Voluptus autem est sola quae nos vocet et si ad aliscat supe natura. Pleasure, saith one man of his own nature, elective to him every human creature. Now what person soever doth pleasure hate, as a beast is to be abjected both early and late, let me have a word or two in your ear. How say you by that? Like you not that pretty gear?
You are a fond body, Pleasure, verily.
Doth he not move you to matrimony? Take heed that he bring you not to such dotage, for many incommodities truly be in marriage.
Semper habet lights, alter que Google lectus, in quam monopter esse minimum de morcha et illo. The bed wherein lieth any married wife is never without chiding, brawling, and strife, that women shall never sleep in quiet, which is marriage contrary to her diet.
Of all bondage, truly, this is the ground. A gentlewoman to one husband be bound.
Tush, Mistress Mary, be ye not in subjection. Better it is, be at your own election. What thing in this world excelleth liberty? Neither gold nor treasure for a surety. Take you now one, and then another hardily, such as for the time that will to you lovingly apply.
That will be a mean truly to lose my good name, and so among the people I shall suffer blame.
You shall not keep my counsel. If you cannot keep your own, can you not make good cheer, but it must be known?
Oh, as touching that, I will be to you such a mean, as shall teach you always to convey the matter clean.
Take you none but gentlemen with velvet coats. It is to be thought that they are not without groats.
In any wise see that your lovers be young and gay, and such fellows as be well able to pay.
Nay, truly, if I should attempt any such gear, I would take where I loved alway here and there.
Spoken like a worthy sweet girl, by the mass. I warrant all this gear will well come to pass.
You must ever have a tongue well filed to flatter. Let your garments be sprinkled with rose water. Use your civet, pomander, musk, which be to sell, that the odour of you a mile off a man may smell. with sweet ointments such as you can appoint, use you evermore your proper body to anoint.
With fine meats and pure wines do your body nourish, that will cause you in all pleasure to flourish. And when one for your mind can espy, use a smiling countenance and a wanton eye.
Upon all such as ye mind not, look you aloft. To them that be not of your diet, be you not soft.
Laugh now, I pray God I'd die if ever I did see such pleasant companions as you be. You speak of many things here of pleasure, which to use truly requireth much treasure.
And she raises a very important point which we will grapple with next time, but I think we can see where this is all starting to go. It's really interesting when we get to basically the sequence which basically started with, you might want to display a little more cleavage there. That would be good. Would you like to wear less clothing, much less clothing, negligee basically, in fact as little as possible?
On Zoom, nobody knows if you're wearing trousers.
Yes.
There was a kind of obsession with sort of what's under the surface, wasn't there, in terms of clothing? Somebody's been imagining, ribbons being tied onto other bits of clothing and stuff.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's kind of like a suit of armor, isn't it?
Yes, it is, in that both are tied on to a doublet, a pourpoint, a doublet with holes in it to tie points into. Now, as a person who cares about costume history, this is fascinating to me. And also, as a person looking for clues as to how they might have intended to stage this, what fun it would be to have the Vices take off Mary's outer garment and just on stage dress her from the foundation garments up, put a corset on her, have Pride lacing her up, and saying, "Oh, use will make it easy." They just and then having them tie on panniers or tie on a farthingale, depending on when we're set, probably a farthingale, onto. Often it was holes in your corset, your pair of bodies itself, and then over that drape either the magnificent garment she came in with, or something even more magnificent, and to have them doing her hair, doing her makeup, transforming her from the innocent maiden we saw into this sort of whore of Babylon in the making.
Well, that's the thing, is that's where this progression is going. You should should only eat the finest foods and all the things and things where I don't have the money. I think we can suggest where she's going to be paying for these things is where the narrative is about to head.
Well, but she's quibbling with it. Like, she can see that there's going to be a cost.
Just had a minor internet dropout at that point. Eric was saying something very important in the absence of actual recording history.
Yeah, well, that's your fault. Oh no, I'm kidding. It just like the whole dressing, Mary, or dressing her and undressing her and then dressing her again. I don't know. It just reminded me of like that scene in Thesmophoria, as I say, where they're trying to dress, sort of. I think it's Euripides. Like, I think it's not him. I'm not entirely sure, because Aristophanes hated him. They're trying to dress him, to disguise him as a woman. So obviously a lot of things sort of are very, like, it's just taken to the extreme of what they think of what a male view is of female clothing. So that's what that reminded me of. Yeah.
Yes, we do have, these beauty standards, these ideas of what men want a woman to look like, and this, because this is an entirely male-constructed gaze going on here. And just returning to the point earlier, written by a monk. I'm not suggesting he's working through anything in this scene at all. There is nothing pervy. about any of this in any way, shape. This is all for good moral teaching. You know, there's something quite, adolescent about bits of this. In a weird,
like Adrian Mole, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, just a bit. You know, I know that we'll lay them out for their fair teats, and it's just there's something.
Is it something that he's not getting? Is that what he wrote about it?
Yes.
I was gonna say it's kind of like the Jew of Malta, where like they're the you know, all the nuns die, and then suddenly, you know, the friars are there. Oh yeah, let's bury them, by the way. But hey, they're hot.
Yeah, hot nuns was quite a theme today.
But also very interesting to note that, I mean, this part is most probably being played by a boy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is even if we would stage it in a quite a literal way today, I mean, it's which is problematic in a different way. With a potentially boy player on this, it's a different kind of slightly pervy quality to this, which is slightly more disturbing. How far do they go?
I was wondering if there might be more than one, because there's a reference when they all come in. I think the word might be mannequin, which is basically little man, isn't it? It was one of those problematic words that we.
Yes, the one I hadn't quite decided what it was supposed to
be.
Kin,
or kin is a diminutive anyway, isn't it? But so I was kind of expecting Mary Magdalene to be able to double that, which you can't. But I wonder what that might imply. It might imply nothing, of course.
Well,
you know.
It's a word I've seen elsewhere, and it just basically means a little pretty person. Often I've seen Minnikin refer to women, but just like a little pretty person, maybe a second boy player in the company.
Yeah, munchkin.
I'll chase that up etymologically, because I know I've seen it elsewhere, but I can't mention where, lest I invoke a waterfowl.
Indeed. Do not go there. You know it makes sense. There isn't actually that much left in that scene to go, but we have basically run out of time for this session. Any final thoughts around the room about the play so far? So, Eric, I think I'll throw you in first. Any final thoughts?
Well, like, I know it's supposed to be a morality play, but I think I really just enjoy reading the villains in morality plays just because they're so over the top. I'm enjoying it at this point in time because of like over the top things, but also it's sort of so problematic, which is really, really bad.
Yes, I mean,
in so many ways.
Yeah, we do have this problem that it is a play that is dealing with, we're calling it a morality play. Of course, we shouldn't be calling it a morality play, because of course it is also a biblical narrative play. It is a play that is doing several things at the same time, and of course the attitude to women that this play is projecting is not something that we could comfortably do today. We can say it's a very good example of some of the more problematic elements of that we have, but that doesn't mean that a straight up performance of this is easy to pull off. Stephen, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn really between thinking it's sort of horribly misogynist and almost the opposite point, actually, that Mary Magdalene is just every woman. The terms of the temptations here are a bit different. The stakes are a bit different, but this is again, in a sense, there is a sort of defensible Christian perspective, which is this is what it's like on your own against all of these temptations and these sort of devilish figures. This is why you should never be on your own against them. So I'm kind of, sometimes some of it I'm going, ew, and this is horrible, and how can you sort of really with a good conscience sort of enjoy it? And sometimes I kind of feel it just, well, as I say, Mary is every woman. and therefore, the way she is the way everybody is. And the point is not, oh, women, oh, they like makeup or whatever, but it's that process of being tempted against which nobody is safe.
I was thinking maybe it's if you engage with the patriarchy, you just can't win. Might be the alternative moral that we have here. That by playing
If it wasn't
the
the patriarchy, it would be something else, though.
Yeah. Andrew, final thoughts?
I can see many layers in this play, which is quite interesting, of all the different roles. And it's like an ensemble piece because you've got all the different characters interjecting all the time with different parts to move the plot along and also to develop their character further. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and it's interesting to see a different twist on the religious side of it, and showing different sides of how you can portray the 7 deadly sins, really. So yeah.
Yes, in the next couple of sessions, we're going to be moving more into textual, actual things that are biblically reported, in the sense that none of this is actual event. This is precursor, but we will start getting other biblical characters being introduced. Liza, final thoughts?
Well, I mean, I agree with what everyone has said before, that one can't really say, is this a misogynist play or not? Because of the period it's written in, misogyny is the air that they breathe. But I do find it intriguing that in a lot of morality plays, the central figure, the everyman figure, is by default a man, in Mankind, in Everyman, and that it's man's nature which is subject to temptation and subject to corruption. Whereas here the central figure is a woman, and she's not seen as being inherently evil. She has the same predisposition to temptation and corruption as any other soul does. With the male characters broadly, we've seen in other plays, we've seen the vices appeal to their desires, to their laziness, to their ambition. But with her, it's their vanity that they start out with, and her desire for pleasure. Which, again, the pleasure thing, we've also seen that used to corrupt male characters, male central figures. So I'll be interested in seeing how this goes on. And, again, usually in these morality plays, the central figure gets tempted, falls into sin, sees the error of their ways, repents, and everything is nice again, potential spoilers. So it'll be interesting to see how that is handled, whether there's, whether it's handled any differently because the central figure is female.
Excellent. We will discover that further anon in the next 2 sessions on this, internet willing. I apologise if some of the respondents were a little jerky during the last few moments. My internet connection has not been very good for the last 10 minutes or so. So hopefully everything has come across and been recorded brilliantly. If not, I'll put some additional bits in the show notes to fill in any bits there. I will have to review that in a moment. Isn't that great? That's a job for me to do. Looking forward to that. Thank you very much, however, for all the speakers today, and we'll see you again next time for more Repenting Mary Magdalene.